Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out. This is episode 142. Hope everyone is doing all right out there. It's week 5 going into week 6 of self-isolation for our family. Odd days for sure, but at least we're healthy. That's obviously the most important thing. And we're trying to keep busy with high-tech fun. Of course, you'd expect that from the host of a show called Tech It Out, but also some low-tech, some offline fun as well, like playing cards and ping pong and board games. We made a bonfire in the backyard the other day and cooked our lunch on it. Going for lots of walks and all that. Hey, it's one of the upsides of all of this. Bad news is me being able to spend more time with my family. My twins, who are turning 18, are going off to college in the fall. So this is time that we'll never get back. So at the very least, it's great to hang out with them a lot, even though we're all going a little stir crazy, like many of you are, no doubt. We're still, of course, adjusting to the new normal, and I hope you are too, and that your loved ones are healthy. And thank you for tuning in to Tech It Out. As we've done with this show on previous weeks in March and in April, we're going to be exploring several tech angles to COVID-19. We're going to start off today's show in a moment with a chat about the popularity of Zoom, the video chatting platform, but it's on how to avoid those jerks called Zoom bombers. We're going to catch up with Tony Anscombe from ESET, a leading cybersecurity company, about what you can do to enhance the security and privacy of Zoom and other applications you may use now that you're maybe working from home or you've got students in the home using technology. We're going to tell you how to protect yourself there. After that, we're going to learn about an app designed to help you get a better night's sleep, something you may need right about now, and it's aptly called Sleep Cycle. After that, are you working from home? We're going to learn about a product called FluidStance, which is meant to give you a mini workout while you're at your computer or while video conferencing. We'll learn how FluidStance works. And finally, and speaking of working from home, we're going to talk about why you need a VPN, a virtual private network, to remain protected from hackers and scammers and such. All of this and more on this weekend's brand new Tech It Out, powered by ASUS, which I'll tell you more about soon. But let's kick off the show. One of the biggest side stories to this whole COVID-19 pandemic is the cyber thieves who are looking to capitalize on the crisis. There have been countless attempts to defraud you in many different ways and all tied to coronavirus. The problem is exasperated when you consider the hundreds of millions of people now working from home on a computer that may not be as secure as the office, and issues with video chatting services like Zoom. Plus, there's students now using their computers for online education and so on and so forth. So joining us on the line to talk about the problems and solutions to cybercrime in the COVID age, we're joined by Tony Anscombe. He's a regular to this program. Tony's a global ambassador to ESET, a leading cybersecurity company. Welcome back, Tony.
Hey, it's great to be here again, Mark.
Hope you're doing okay.
Yes, absolutely. Not going out too much and staying indoors, as we all should be.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're doing well, and thanks for carving out some time to chat. Before we talk about new cybersecurity risks, while we're all cooped up at home, as I mentioned, you've been a guest many times on this show. I've talked about ESET a lot, but for those who haven't yet used ESET on their devices, please tell us a bit about the company.
Well, so ESET's a company that was founded over 30 years ago and today has international offices all over the world, including in Canada and in the US, obviously. And it was founded by researchers who had a passion to detect and remove malware. And that kind of remains the vision of the company today, and it's still in that private ownership of those original founders. And you can see their ethos running through our products and services even today.
And of course, malware is short for malicious software. And what would you say makes ESET stand out primarily among its competitors? Because there are many.
There are lots of them. There certainly are, Mark. Well, ESET has a core focus on cybersecurity research. So if you follow any of our news stories and stuff like that, you'll see that research it goes through the veins of the company, and it's unparalleled actually when you look at us in comparison to other companies. And you can see that in our products. The passion is for low impact on resources, ease of use, solid detection. And once people discover ESET, they very rarely leave.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I love that it runs quietly in the background. You know, I'm a big computer gamer, and the previous cybersecurity software I used would slow down my machine significantly. So I do like how easy it is to install and use ESET. You don't even know it's there until they warn you that there was an issue that they've quarantined and deleted. Also, what I like about ESET is that it runs on several devices, not just computers.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether it's a Mac, whether it's a laptop, desktop on Windows and different versions of Windows, but we've also got versions on Android. You can even install it on a TV to protect your TV from any Android malware as well.
Right. All right. So before we talk about the new normal and using technology and the risks associated with that, I understand listeners have an opportunity to get a free trial for ESET. How do they get going on that?
Well, firstly, Mark, during this unprecedented time, we've extended our trials from 30 days to 90 days. And we've done that to cover businesses who are sending employees home or parents that are re-energizing, an old laptop for their kids to be homeschooled. Yeah, it means there's a no-cost option in there. And that extended trial can be found if you come to ESET.com. There's an orange banner across the top of the screen that says COVID-19 on it. If you click on that banner and scroll down, there's an offer for the extended trial.
Okay, great. And I think the code, you'll be walked through the code, but I think it's trial 90 is the code. But anyhow, this is great stuff, ESET.com. All right. Now, many of us are using Zoom, as I mentioned earlier, a video conferencing platform for work, school, and even socializing. But we've been hearing in the news lately a phrase called Zoom bombing. What is that?
Well, so Zoom bombing is when somebody that was uninvited to your conference call, so your Zoom meeting, joins the meeting. And unfortunately, we've seen people doing that and displaying inappropriate content or, malicious or very, very nasty content, some racist content and stuff like that. So it's when somebody's joining with just the meeting ID. It means somebody the person who scheduled the meeting didn't set a password. And then the bad guy comes along, guesses the 9-digit password identifier for a meeting and joins that meeting. And they can do that by brute force, so they can just set a script running to actually look for those meeting IDs that are active.
Okay. Yeah. So it's when someone crashes the party, so to speak, and they look to disrupt the call in some way, shape, or form, often with screen sharing and or hurling racial comments, as you mentioned, because they obtained somehow that 9-digit code. In fact, if you go to Reddit or if you're on social media, there are groups that help coordinate these Zoom bombs. Have we not seen this on other video chatting platforms like Skype or WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or FaceTime? Or is it just because Zoom is so popular now that they're a target?
Well, Zoom is obviously, once something becomes this popular, it becomes a target. So it's kind of an unfortunate side effect of success that people will actually go and pick on something like this. And other services typically have come from the point where they start with passwords as default. Now, one of the things that Zoom has always been celebrated from users is the ease of use. But of course, with ease of use, they took away some of the default security by, for example, like requiring a password. It's a problem. And while we're talking about that password, and in fact, I've just written a blog on this, Mark, so you're going to get the breaking news here because it's not been published yet. My blog has detailed that actually, even if you set the password, so if you go into the schedule the meeting and you require the password, it doesn't actually require the password if you have the link in the invite, because the link has the password embedded in it. So all now I need is the link. Mark, there's lots of things that people install on their machines that collect browsing history. So if you've got a recurring meeting, say, for example, a school lesson that has the same link every time, if it's in the browsing history, you may have something else on your machine that's actually collecting the browsing history, and suddenly you've shared the password inadvertently with other people. Not only do you actually need to set a password, you also need to unembed the password from the link and actually force the person joining the meeting to input the password, which is what we all expect to do, isn't it? If you log on to something and it asks for a password, you expect to input it.
Right. It's interesting about the trade-off between convenience and security. So I know that the company's CEO, Eric Yuan, has apologized and vowed to right the wrong. Have they done enough, do you think? And what other tips can you recommend, Tony, to reduce the odds of Zoom bombing or some of these other privacy and security concerns surrounding Zoom?
So I have actually come up with a full list of recommendations, which you'll be able to find next week on We Live Security. But if have they done enough? Well, I think they're going through an unfortunate process. I mean, a company goes through a business model where they offer free to get a large amount of users, and then suddenly they've got the large amount of users, but their business model was still for free. So I think they're just going through a transition phase. So I'm cutting them some slack where maybe other people aren't. And I think they will get there. They've changed their privacy policy. They're changing some of their defaults. Yeah, they've released new versions to fix some of the issues. Yeah, and they are moving quite quickly. But some of those things like holding people, if you want to start a meeting, if you want to know all the people that are actually in the meeting, make them sit in a waiting room. Yeah, and when you start the meeting, allow each individual into the waiting room so you actually know who the participants are. Set the password, unembed it from the link. There are lots of features in there if you look through the settings.
All great advice, Tony. Thank you so much. Tony Anscombe, always a pleasure chatting with you. Tony, of course, is a global ambassador to ESET, a leading cybersecurity company at ESET.com. And you can also take advantage of that free 90-day trial of their software if you haven't yet installed it on your devices. Thank you again, Tony. Be well.
And you, Mark.
Speaking of computers, this show, Tech It Out, would not be possible without the support from ASUS. For those in search of incredible, check out ASUS laptops and desktops, monitors, smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, and much more at asus.com/US/radio. That's asus.com/US/radio. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. Question for you. Since the start of this COVID-19 pandemic, how has it affected your sleep? Let's face it, it's on our mind these days. We're worried about getting sick, losing work, our life savings in the stock market that might have taken a nosedive, being stressed because of self-isolation. Whatever the reason, for many, it has impacted their sleep quite a bit. And so we're now going to learn about an app that might be able to help. It's called Sleep Cycle. And the company is also offering something for free for a limited time during the crisis, which we'll get to in a moment. But we're joined on the line by Andreas Roman. He's the head of content at Sleep Cycle. Welcome to the show, Andreas, and I hope you're doing okay with everything right now.
Yeah, I'm fine considering circumstances.
Yeah, thank you. So before we talk about COVID-19 and what you're offering to users for a limited time, please tell us a bit about the Sleep Cycle app. It's been around for a while. I know it's popular.
Yeah, I mean, we've been around for over 10 years, and it's basically it's an app designed to help you reach better health through better sleep. But I mean, since that kind of means different things for different people, we'd like to think that we take a holistic view on the idea of sleep. So depending on your circumstances, where you are in life, and so on, we can help you in different ways. So if you want to learn about sleep and potentially change your way, then we can help you.
And how does it work exactly? Maybe you can walk us through what the app does.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially what it does at its fundamental is that you set an alarm and then it wakes you up at what we'd like to call the perfect time in the morning. And while you're sleeping, it also analyzes your sleep and presents with you an idea of how your night had fared in terms of, how many hours did you actually sleep, and did you snore, and are your sleeping habits regular, and so on. So it wakes you up and then it presents you with an idea, and then it can also help you go to sleep with our sleep aid program.
And does it listen to you while you're sleeping? Do you need to wear anything? How does it know all this information, like when you woke up, for how long, and how disruptive was your sleep? How does it know all that?
It uses a very advanced patented microphone technology, and you don't have to wear anything. You just put it on the nightstand right next to your bed, and it does the rest.
Okay. And how does it know it's you and not your partner? You know, if for snoring, for example.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting question. Probably a topic for many couples. But the thing is, microphone technology is very sensitive, so distance is a factor. Provided that you put it close to your side of the bed, it knows it's you.
Got it. Okay. And what would you say is unique about Sleep Cycle compared to other apps that may have a similar approach?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of great actors out there who do fantastic work to help people find better sleep. And I think that our take on it is that, as I mentioned before, we have this holistic view on it. We don't zoom in on a particular part of sleep, but we take you through the entire journey, because sleep is very different for each and every one of us. And some of us might struggle with falling asleep, and some might be moody when they wake up, or maybe your daily habits have an impact on your sleep. And either way, we can help you. So we sort of look at the overall picture of it.
Let's now talk about what you're offering during the COVID-19 pandemic, this crisis. It's a premium. So the app is free, right? But then you do have this optional premium element that you're now offering for free as well. Can you talk to us about it? It's called Sleep Aid.
Yes, I mean, we have a very specific part of Sleep Cycle, an extensive content program that we're calling Sleep Aid. And that's designed for the very purpose to help you relax and wind down and fall asleep. And it's a place filled with music and stories and relaxing guides and rhymes and poetry and ambience and so on. And you can go there and you can explore this world of ours and find the place that works for you to reach the level of rest and comfort that you might need in these times, or any times for that matter.
Okay, can you elaborate a little bit more on what it is that's different than the free version that you offer? White noise or?
Well, actually, it's a lot more than just ambient sound. It has complete stories for those who enjoy falling asleep to a bedtime story.
Okay.
We like to call them bedtime stories for grown-ups. Then there are relaxing guides, which is more like sort of approaching meditation. It's a place where we sort of take you to maybe a forest or an ocean and help you wind down with simple body exercises. And then there's just music and sound designed for those who prefer not to have someone talking when you're going to fall asleep, but just want the comforting sound and noise. So it's essentially, it's like a big library of content where, depending on your preference, you can find what works best for you.
Cool. How much is that normally, and how long will it remain free for?
Yeah, I mean, normally it's part of our premium subscription offer, as you mentioned, and that is $29 per year. But now this is free, and we actually don't know for how long, because we're doing this because we truly think this might be beneficial for the people out there, and this is our way of, we want to help. So I would say for as long as it takes.
Oh, that's great. And where could we learn more about Sleep Cycle and take advantage of this premium sleep aid content you're offering for free?
You can download it directly from Google Play and App Store, but I would also strongly recommend a visit to our website, sleepcycle.com. You'll find a direct link to the app there, but there's also great information on sleep aid and sleep in general as well.
Right. I was actually playing around with your website this morning, and I loved all the sections about sleep. There's a lot of interesting content there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Andreas. Andreas Roman has been our guest all the way from Sweden to talk with us about the Sleep Cycle app. Thank you again.
Thank you. Take care.
We'll be right back with more Tech It Out.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out, powered by ASUS. ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life, including its line of award-winning laptops, desktops, monitors, and much more. For those in search of incredible, visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. There's an obvious downside to all this time we're now sitting around at home during this pandemic. We're on our computers for work or school or while socializing, and that means a lack of exercise. Yes, while we should be practicing physical distancing, going for a walk is a good idea, or using exercise apps or online classes over Zoom. But what about staying active while you work? Well, a product called FluidStance might be able to help. We're joined on the line by founder and CEO Joel Heath. Welcome to the show, Joel.
Thank you very much for having me. Good to be with you.
It's been said good technology solves a problem. What does FluidStance address?
You know, in this sedentary lifestyle that we've all adopted, and even more so in the last couple of weeks, I'm sure, we wanted to look at how you can maintain a sense of energy while you are stuck in the places that we get stuck. And so for me, back when I founded FluidStance, I had gone from a pretty adventurous life. My first company, we were headquartered in Vail, Colorado. And when I took a corporate gig and found myself just sitting on my butt more than I ever wanted to, I started to look for ways that I could maintain that sense of motion but stay productive. So started to play with a lot of different concepts, and 27 different prototypes later, we created the Level by FluidStance that maintains energy expenditure while you continue to type away on your computer, watch Netflix, whatever you're doing. That keeps you bound to one location.
So it's kind of like a balance board, if you will. Kind of looks like a skateboard. Is that fair?
Yeah, I come from a board sports mentality, so was constantly looking for how you could have a little bit of fun and do your work at the same time. So yeah, definitely inspired by balance boards and snowboards, surfboards, all those things that kind of give us a little bit of levity in our life. Trying to figure out ways that we could maintain that productivity that we all need for work. And so we wanted to make sure that it had at least a 10% impact on your energy expenditure while having less than a 1% impact on your keystroke productivity.
Interesting. I was going to ask you, is it meant to give you a rigorous workout? I don't think that's the case. I think it's meant to help keep you in shape while subtly balancing while you're still able to type and talk.
You bet. I didn't want to replace the workout. I didn't want to replace our time outside. It's just those places when we are stuck in front of a screen that I wanted to make more productive. And, even when we look at younger kids in elementary school today, their balance systems are less developed than our balance systems were when we were that age. And that's just because they're not moving around so much, and that balance system is not developing, which is leading to a lot of other problems. But the same thing's happening for us at work. Balance is a use it or lose it situation. And if we sit all the time, I do have chairs in my office, so I'm not a total standard, but if we can continue to put moderation in our life, things will have a way to work out. Our body knows what to do. But when we force our body to stay in one position too long, whether that's standing, seated on our product, or running all the time, things start to break down. And so we want to create more moderation in our day. So as we're stuck at home today, we want to make sure that we maintain a sense of motion. And whether that's, they say the best ergonomic position is the next one. So just continuously changing up your day, moving from a seated position to a standing one. Moving to a balance board product, taking a walk. You just want to create that constant motion. I'm a big believer that motion is medicine. And if we can maintain that through this crisis, but also in our sedentary normal work life, I think we'll have a leg up on if we just stayed seated the whole time.
Right. Pardon the pun. Do you have any scientific evidence on it increasing your health, your happiness, your productivity, anything that could back up your, as you said, you believe that it makes a difference, but I think you have some stats too.
Yeah, you bet. I really wanted to make sure that we could deliver something that was meaningful, and I didn't want it just to be something that was fun but wasn't productive, et cetera. So Mayo Clinic did research on us and found that we increased energy expenditure by 19.2%. We worked with Westmont University, University of Idaho as well. They all found similar stats, that we increased the energy expenditure in a meaningful way. And the Dr. Levine, who coined sitting as the new smoking, really put that threshold of you've got to increase your heart rate by at least 10% or your caloric burn by 10% to have a meaningful energy expenditure in a non-exercise activity. So obviously, if we're going for a run, we want to get our heart rate as high as we can, but we want to increase our heart rate by at least 10% in ways when we're just watching Netflix or typing or doing those things, to have a continuous burn that allows your body not to go into that sedentary state. One of the things I found most interesting is one of the most dangerous times for us in our sedentary lifestyle is post-meal. And if you're like me, after you eat a big meal, you just kind of want to hunker down and kind of sit there. But the most important thing you can do is stay active for 15 to 30 minutes post-meal, so that spike in our blood sugar can have a place to be moved through that activity. If we just sit, our body doesn't know what to do with that increase in energy that we have available and starts to store it in non-productive ways. And so one of the things that I would encourage everybody to do is post-meal, make sure, go for a walk for 15 minutes. Use those times to be more productive, because that's really where the greatest damage or the greatest good can be done.
And I can hear you're practicing what you preach, because you did forewarn me before we started talking and recording this interview that you were going to be walking around your warehouse. Where can we learn more about FluidStance, and how much do they start at?
So FluidStance.com is the best place. We're a small family-run business based out of California, and we ship out of our warehouses here. So that's the best place to take a look at us.
And the cost for FluidStance?
We start at $149 US dollars and go up from there. We have some original versions that are handmade that get up into the 400s, but those are all one of a kind. We have our kids product called the Grade, currently just under $100. That's available in a recycled milk jug product.
All right, fluidstance.com. Joel Heath, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I hope the product does well for you.
Thank you very much. And remember, everybody, to keep moving.
When we return on Tech It Out, we're going to chat about VPNs, or virtual private networks, considered an extension from our first interview. We're kind of bookending the show about security in the COVID-19 age, how we're using computers at home for work, for play, for school, and how are you protecting yourself, because you arguably are more at risk without having the same kind of security protocols that you do at the office. So stay with us. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Now that you may be working from home because of the COVID-19 pandemic, how private is your online activity? Probably not very private, in fact. Even if you opt for your browser's private browsing mode, or incognito mode, or whatever it's called, yes, it could scrub your history and cookies and all that when you're done, but your online activity is still visible, saved, and could be shared or sold. To truly remain anonymous while you browse, you should opt for what's called a VPN, or virtual private network. Joining us on the line to give us a bit of a VPN 101, if you will, is Jan Nygren. He's with VPNpro.com. Jan is a renowned cybersecurity and consumer protection specialist. Welcome to the show, Jan. Thanks for your time.
Hey, thanks, Mark, for having me on the show.
Before we talk about the new normal, about working from home amid the COVID-19 crisis, please tell us what a VPN is exactly.
Well, yeah, so like you said, VPN stands for Virtual Private Network. And I think it's kind of good to explain VPN by understanding how your internet works. So you, through your router, like now you're probably connected to your Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi is connected to your router, which connects to your ISP, Internet Service Provider, and that goes on to the internet. So, for example, if I want to connect from my computer to VPNpro.com, VPNpro.com will be able to see my IP address, and my ISP will be able to see my IP address and see what websites I'm visiting. So from a privacy perspective, it isn't, that great.
And an IP address, it's a unique identifier. It shows your geographical location, right? We're talking about a number like 192.68.0.1, something like that. That's an IP address.
Something like that. So, if I Google what is my IP address, I will find it. And then if you click on it, usually you'll see your own city or even something very close to your neighborhood.
Right.
So it is a way for companies or other people to identify roughly where you are located. And it is, like you said, it's a unique identifier so that people, websites or companies on the internet, they can really track all your browsing history by your IP address. And everywhere you go, you communicate your IP address. So what a VPN does is that it does two things. It first encrypts your communications, your web traffic, so that it isn't in clear, plain language what you are doing. So your passwords, your videos, your messages, anything that you're doing online, if it's encrypted, that means other people can't read it, if anyone is listening in. The second thing that a VPN does, which is the most popular, is that it changes your IP address. So, for example, if I'm connected to a VPN, then I can choose from my VPN software, my VPN program, what city I want to appear to be connected to. So, for example, if I'm in Miami and I have a VPN like NordVPN and I say, connect me to London, So first of all, my computer will connect to the London server. And then if I visit vpnpro.com, it will appear as if I'm coming from London and not from Miami. And so my IP address will be hidden and all my data, everything is encrypted.
There's a secondary use case scenario for VPNs that I know, speaking of changing your area or your country, and that is accessing content that may be restricted outside of that country. So to stick with your example, if you're in Miami and you want to make it look like you're from England, when you do that through a VPN provider, you are now able to access BBC content, for example, that you might not be able to access being in the US. So that is a secondary application. I know my Canadian friends who want access to the American Netflix will do that.
I was going to give the example. Even more popular than iPlayer is the US Netflix. I think that's could be 50% of all VPN usage is just trying to get connected to US Netflix.
All right. So that's what a VPN is. Number one, it masks your online activity. So therefore, it is more anonymized and you can't be tracked by your internet service provider or your web browser company or by the websites you visit like Facebook and so on. And secondly, you can make it look like you're from another country for other purposes. All right. So what does VPNpro.com do?
Well, of course, by the name, you can already assume that we're kind of focused on VPNs, but we do more focus on cybersecurity because we really want to emphasize and want to educate the public on privacy and anonymity and security whenever they go online. Because now, as you know, it's 2020 and literally every single part of our lives is online. And as you also know, there are data breaches and data leaks and these vulnerabilities almost in the news pretty much every week. And so we try to educate people on how for themselves to best stay safe and secure online. So we do a lot of research on that part, and we do also some VPN reviews and other software reviews.
With so many people working from home now, I understand that you have seen a huge spike in VPN use to stay private and secure.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of traffic coming in. People are looking for the best VPNs in whatever the country they're in. So we decided to take a bit of a deeper dive into it to see what the numbers are saying. So the first thing we did was we looked at Google Trends just in different countries to see what kind of spike we're seeing in VPN searches in different countries. And in Portugal, Italy, Spain, in Europe, in UK, we're seeing a big percentage increase in the amount of people searching for basic information on VPNs. And so we contacted some VPNs, and you asked them, what kind of numbers are you seeing from your end? And for example, Surfshark said that they're seeing really big increases. For example, they're seeing a triple increase in Turkey, double in Italy, in Germany, and Portugal. NordVPN has seen quadruple user growth in Canada, in Austria, and Netherlands.
I'm not surprised because we're now being mandated to work from home. We want to make sure it's a secure connection. We'll continue chatting with VPNpro.com when we return. Stay with us.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Check It Out whenever you want.
We're chatting with Jan Ugren. He's with VPNpro.com. We're chatting about what a VPN is, but also how you should choose one because of what you do, because of what VPNpro.com does. I'm assuming it's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. Not all VPNs are created equal. You mentioned, for example, NordVPN earlier. That's a popular one. I use one called ExpressVPN. How do you choose one?
Well, like I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all. And so I think it really depends on what's your ultimate goal with the VPN. If it is privacy and ultimate security, then we'll recommend one. If it's most people, they want a combination of privacy, security, but also speed and performance. So usually we recommend something like a 6-7 point thing. The first one is how many servers does the VPN have around the world? For example, you don't want to limit yourself to a VPN that only has 100 servers around the world. And if those servers get, clogged up, a lot of people are using them, then you're going to see the speeds drop. So that's the first thing that's quite important. The second thing is generally what kind of speed and performance do these VPNs have? So even if they have a lot of servers, it doesn't mean that they're particularly fast. So usually we recommend that people, once they connect to a VPN, see what the speed is when you are without the VPN on like speedtest.net, and then see what the speed is when you're connected to the VPN, and see if that kind of drop is okay for you. If it isn't, then maybe go with another VPN. Thirdly, we're getting a bit more technical, but then you have to, is it safe? What kind of encryption and tunneling? All these kind of technical details, but just how encrypted or how difficult is it for someone else to kind of intercept your communications to see what you're doing? Because a VPN is also about security. And then we get to I think the fourth thing, which may be the first thing for many people, depending on the usage, which is how capable is it to unblock geo-restricted content like Netflix, not like iPlayer. For example, a lot of VPN companies claim to be able to unlock Netflix US, but we find that even 50% of those that are able to do it is optimistic. So you have to really check, can this company, do what I want it to do? And lastly, I think, customer service. If you have a problem, and especially if you're not very tech friendly, tech oriented, then customer service would be an important thing for you as well.
Just to clarify, iPlayer is the BBC player, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm. It is a BBC.
Okay, thank you. And one other consideration, and it's often the first one, is how much does it cost? When somebody's looking up a VPN, and maybe their company isn't paying for it, they may opt for a free VPN over a paid one. What's your take on that? We
actually do a lot of research on free VPNs, only because we see that so many people flocking to free VPNs for those reasons that you mentioned. It's free, and it seems to be providing with the best, of speed, security, all that kind of stuff. However, we find that most of that is not really dependable. So with free VPNs, you really are sacrificing something. Optimistically, like with TunnelBear, you can use it, but you have a limit of, say, 1 gigabyte per month. And nowadays, that means you watch 2 Netflix shows, you're done. You've reached your gigabyte limit. Pessimistically, you have things that they will actually not be so safe. They will not be so anonymous. They will not be so private. So they may leak your IP address. They may track the websites you're visiting. Or some, really shady VPNs, they might even be, engaged in fraud. So there are good free VPNs like Proton VPN, like Windscribe. So we do recommend those, but more often than not, we always say it's better for you to try, for example, get a 30-day free trial or 14-day free trial at a top VPN and see how it feels, how it works for you.
So the best website, I'm assuming, for our listeners to learn more about vpnpro.com and all the work you do, including warning against other VPNs. And I don't know if you also recommend your favorite VPNs. What's the best website? It is vpnpro.com,
Unsurprisingly, I would say vpnpro.com. That's where I do all my work. That's where I release all my research, and we're constantly researching. Like I said, not just VPNs, but cybersecurity. But definitely, we try to focus as well on VPNs.
And you do recommend ones on your website?
We do. We have NordVPN now as the number 1, but I think Express is there number 2 or number 3. I think it's NordVPN, Surfshark, and ExpressVPN.
Okay.
So those are the ones, with all these multiple tests about security, speed, and all that. Those are the ones we've settled on.
All right, Jan, vpnpro.com. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise. I wish you well during these challenging times, and I appreciate you carving out a bit of time to chat with us as well.
Thank you, Mark, so much for the time, and have a good day.
Thank you so much for tuning into Tech It Out, everyone, powered by ASUS. Visit asus.com/US/radio for a look at all their awesome gear. Stay safe, everyone. Happy, healthy week ahead. And I look forward to catching up with you next weekend on Tech It Out.